So hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for attending. Today is June, yes, I want to say it is Wednesday, yes, Wednesday, June 29th, 2022. I'm Philip Auerbach, President and Founder of the Auerbach Global Impact Foundation, and wanted to welcome all of our wonderful guests and our two presenters, Dr. Delores Springs and Mr. Jim Byrnes, both of whom will introduce themselves. The AGIF is a nonprofit for nonprofits. We primarily educate nonprofits in how to improve their capacity building, their growth, and their general capabilities. And also, we're seeking to create collaboration among nonprofits through these forums and other means. And through certain programs that we will have, we will also be able to offer funding, but we cannot do that yet. So our executive director, Spencer Gould, is unable to be with us today, but I am here and expecting one of our other board members, Ryan Jackson, to attend if he can. He will call in from Hawaii. And otherwise, just would like to welcome all of the participants. So Delores, would you like to introduce yourself, and then Jim can introduce himself.
Slide 2, please.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon and welcome. And I'm so happy to be here and work alongside my wonderful colleagues. I am a board member of the AGIF. I'm so proud to be part of this organization. Everyone is so committed to doing work to help improve services that nonprofits provide and help them really achieve their mission. For the past 20 years, I've worked alongside a lot of diverse, respected leaders. And one of the things I realized, it's not just about being a great leader, it's really about serving others. And since 1999, I've worked with nonprofits, government, academic, and healthcare organizations, and I've enjoyed doing that. I enjoy designing evidence-based services and programs, as well as business development and strategic plans for organizations and leaders. More specifically, I really like to partner alongside those pursuing a mission to improve marginalized communities and the quality of life for disadvantaged populations. But I'm very passionate about leadership. I have a master's in human services and executive leadership and a doctorate in strategic leadership and foresight. I also teach in a business management courses and a doctoral program, but primarily I work at a consulting firm I founded about 9 years ago, and my practice focuses on creating organizational leadership development programs, business process management, strategic planning, and I enjoy optimized operations management, civic engagement, and program development. So one quick fun fact about me is about 12 years ago, I decided to quit my job and carry out independent, fully funded global research endeavors. And that allowed me to really expand my outreach into 19 different countries. So I really have a lot of appreciation for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I will pass us along to my wonderful colleague, Jim Byrnes.
Thanks so much, Dr. Springs. I'm very pleased to work with Delores. We do some collaborative events and some collaborative projects, and one of them is this wonderful forum that Delores has headed up for AGIF. And I'm just really pleased to be with you all today. And I know there's a bunch of people that I know have called in, so we have people online here, and I know we have a lot of people also that are going to enjoy the tape of this event. A very brief background of me: I spent over 40 years, you'll be able to age me very quickly, in the retail business. At one time I had 18 stores. A couple of my proud people that I partnered with were the Hershey Hotel stores I owned, and I did Crayola crayons retail for them for many years, and owned a bunch of my own stores. I took that for-profit experience and have focused the last almost 15 years of my life in the nonprofit field, and I've done it in the actual activity of that. I've been CEO of a few organizations, executive directors of one, and now I just assumed the role of a director of development for an organization. So I'm going to bring to you some real instances that you'll feel close to about your own organizations, about some of the things I've done and heard about. You'll hear that today. We can share our pain with some of these things because they may shed a light. I'm going to ask for a slide move. I'm going to ask Delores if you want to just kind of review what this three-part series looks like and where we're going.
Sure. So this three-part series is about finding success during chaotic and turbulent times. And I think, that's something we can all relate to, considering, the pandemic, economic challenges, and we're all feeling the effects of that. So with that, we wanted to create this forum to really assist not just nonprofit leaders and our members, but even anyone in your network who may be impacted, just discovering solutions and being able to engage with experts and build your network and cultivate ideas that will really help you grow and sustain the great work you're already doing. So this forum will be focused on strategies to improve fundraising and development success. The next forum, which will be a month from now, will be a three-part business process improvement cycle to optimize your program outcomes. So I'm really looking forward to discussing the fundraising and development success strategies and finding some opportunities where we can all grow and develop in this area.
Oh, thanks for Delores. I'm kind of heading up, but I'm happy to have Philip and Delores here to help me today. I'm going to ask for a slide, please. A quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. Obviously, part two is proven development and fundraising strategies to leverage growth and sustainability. But how does your development and fundraising fit into your strategic plan? We talked last time, and those of you that were with us last time, we talked, or if you haven't seen that video, you may want to look at it. We talked a lot about strategic planning. Well, if you don't have your development and your fundraising plan closely enveloped into the strategic plan, it's just not going to work. We need to work on making sure that's happening. And the sustainable development and fundraising plan strategies, I'm going to talk about a bunch of those that we all do, but sometimes we lose sight of, and we'll talk about those today. And then I'm going to mainly focus on some methods to turn your organizational development plan into a best fundraising asset. And I just want to clarify, and then and Philip's going to, number 4, Philip's going to talk about 2 non-traditional ideas besides grants and donations, which will be enlightening for all of us. But people ask me all the time, Jim, what's the difference between development and fundraising? Well, there really isn't a difference, except development is the big umbrella. Oftentimes fundraising is where you see the actual cash flow happening and income happening. And development is a lot of the other parts of it that make your donors effective and make the fundraising happening. So that's an interesting question that we've had. So I'm going to ask for the next slide, please. How does development and fundraising planning fit into your plan? You heard me say this before. I'm going to say it a bunch more times. How do the specific aspects of the organization fit into your development and fundraising plan? If you're not focusing on that plan, the big one, the one with the big humongous goals, if you're not focusing on that, while you're interjecting the income part of your plan, which is development and fundraising, and you're not coordinating those regularly, you can really find yourself in trouble, because you can find oftentimes the wagon leading the horse, or the improper leadership happens. Delores, you had a couple comments that you wanted to make about this, please.
Yeah, I think, the first forum we talked about, we focused on strategic planning. So it really does tie into, fundraising and development. A good strategy directs your efforts across all channels and your fundraising campaign. It helps you meet your goals. So I think of it a little bit like, running a charity without a clear fundraising strategy or a sustainable development plan is like playing a slot machine. You might get lucky or you might not, but if your circumstances change, you're challenged to you have to get back on track. And that's not always easy to do without the right strategy and the right plan. So the odds aren't in your favor. So every nonprofit needs to consider how it can become more effective and efficient while keeping up with industry trends. So when I'm thinking of strategic planning for the future, it's essential for nonprofits management skills to include the right tools in order to grow and improve. Perhaps an average donation per person is lower than what you predicted. So you can think of like, what other major strategies should you be developing? One major strategy can be really constantly optimizing your approach and implement the use of data-led insights. Looking at technology, which is kind of a challenging thing, I think, for a lot of nonprofits who are maybe not well versed in that subject matter. But you have resources like GoodBox, Donor Perfect, and I think Every Action. Those are resources that can easily help track and use data to analyze your performance. So that's just one strategy that you can consider.
We're going to talk a little bit about database management in the future here, but besides grants and government funding, the other strategies we're going to talk about, we're going to talk really about the part in the 6 major parts of fundraising. What I'm hoping, and development, but I'm hoping some of these will trigger some things like, oh, I should be doing that, or I need to know more about that. The purpose of this forum is to get your mind thinking about, boy, what am I missing here? That's why we're kind of going to give you an overview today, and then Philip's going to give you a bonus with some really great new ideas he has. Slide, please. Sustainable development and fundraising strategies. I'm going to give you some examples as we go today of real life examples that will really help you. But when you talk about making sure your development director identifies organizational goals, let me just drop back to a bunch of years back. I was hired by a $3+ million operation to be their executive director, CEO. And one of the first things I did, because I'm really a development focused guy, all my life I've been in sales. So in the nonprofit world, sales converts into development and fundraising. And one of the first things I did was sit down with my development director, who had a major role there. And this is 10 years ago. He was being paid $95,000 with his perks. So this was a very qualified guy. I thought. I sat down with him my first week and I said, "Hey, John, I need your help. Just tell me the contacts you've had in the last 3 months and the last year. I don't need exacts. And how many visits to our organization, happened to be a homeless shelter, a large one, serving about 60 men." And I said, "Tell me how many visits you've made to those people." Oh, he said, "Jim, I'm leaving on vacation in a week." I said, "Well, that's fine. Just get it to me before you leave on vacation and we can talk about it." Well, 6 days came and we checked in before he's leaving that afternoon. I said, "How'd you do with the information I needed?" He said, "I didn't get a chance to do it." Well, you folks in the business will say, "Oh my gosh, we have a problem here." We did. Obviously, he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. I had seen that in his development reports. I immediately put my plan together. He went on vacation, and when he came back, we had a very nice meeting. I said, I really expected that then, and it's too late to put it together now because I just can't use your services. I had to cut him. He did not even have a development plan inside his development department, let alone he wasn't doing. I think he spent all his time filling out grants. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The purpose of the fundraising calendar is the fundraising calendar becomes your checkpoints, your timelines, all you folks that are into project management, and we all are in our businesses. The calendar is where you keep track of that. I say post that calendar with your goals and your tasks and the things that have to be accomplished in your meeting rooms or in everybody's office or in front of everyone, and make sure you relate to that all the time. And the development plan responsibilities, you have to delegate each and every one of the responsibilities of each of the strategies. Yes, the director will have many of them. Yes, the treasurer will have many of them, but everybody in your organization should be given a responsibility to get their buy-in to this development plan we are building. Could I please have the next slide? I'm going to change my notes here. Vital methods to turn your organization's development plan into an asset. I'm going to talk about these 6 things specifically today because it's going to give you an overview of how's your plan doing? How are you doing all the areas of things that need to be done? And as you look at this first one, determining proportion of the parts. When you put together a strategic plan, you're going to have 6 or 8 or 10 major strategies or whatever they are. You have to make sure you prioritize these. Don't prioritize these 4 fundraisers that raise about $2,000 and take your whole team's time so much of the year when you could be doing 1 large fundraiser a year for the same amount of return. You have to prioritize your fundraising. Don't ever allow your development director to sit and write grants all day. That is not what a development director has to do. Make sure it's delegated to the right people. The prioritizing in this situation is the absolute vital part of the strategic plan. We've already talked, Delores gave us some real good background on some data management. And I'll tell you a quick story there that I think might be helpful to you. Data management, there's a ton of great databases out there. And when I joined and became executive director of Family Promise, they were in the process of forming. And this is a division of a national organization. And when I joined them as executive director, I asked them, where are your people? Because they were raising funds. They had some money in the bank, about half a hundred, about 50,000 in the bank. Oh, they're here. They had them all over the place. They never even consolidated them in one spreadsheet. And internally, after one day of research, I found that Family Promise had a database that was virtually free the first year to get you started. And it was a donation from Salesforce, the #1 data processing, data control organization in the world for sales. So they had, I hate this term, but they had, we could handle it beautifully. And it was called FP Force, Family Promise Force. We got on board. It worked effectively. Of course, it took us a couple of weeks to get all the names in it, but make sure that your data management is up to date. Reason being, you're going to be keeping that database that every move you make, and we all talk about this, so we try to do it, but as call, it was a voicemail message, you have to put every track of every interaction. I know my #1 donor, I lost them for 3 months. Well, when I say lost them, I lost contact with them. I didn't hear from them, and I did I had my proper task force put together that I had to go and send the email and send the follow-up voicemail and then send the text. And I did it patiently, and sure enough, they came back and they had a death in the family that they were all recouping from and couldn't keep in contact. But you have to be diligent, but you have to track, I had to track everything I did. Biggest reason is succession planning. Talk about parts of the strategic plan. What happens when the director or CEO, dies or leaves or quits or gets fired? All that information has to be there about every donor. Should you track a $20 donor? Well, first of all, you're going to be tracking it because your database is going to connect with your mailing. So when you send out a mailing, all the people in that database will be updated with a mailing sent such and such on this quarter or whatever. So the other most important part about data management, I'll talk about it now in donor development, is in data management, you have to be able to access that easily for your printer and your email folks and whatever email provider you're going to use. A lot of people are using MailChimp now because it's less than constant contact, but you have to be able to jump in that data management program all the time. Donor development and acquisition is the big question, and Philip and I have already talked about it a few times with AGIF. And how do you develop and how do you acquire donors? It's all about relationship building. We know that. I'm not giving that away as any kind of a secret, but it is really and truly about focusing not just on the donor development with the appeals and with the events and the things and the sponsorships you're going to have them participate in, and the thank you notes. Don't forget, in donor development and acquisition, the thank you note is the most important part of the communication. People say, oh, my donors love me. They don't need a thank you. Wrong. You must absolutely. Every nickel gets thanked in one shape or not. If you're a kind of a volunteer organization, like the Family Promise Group was, one of our volunteers, when she found out what we're doing there, she took that over. She sends a thank you note for every, sometimes 20 to 50 donations a week. She sends a thank you note each and every week. Give you a little secret about acquisition. Of course, donor acquisition is how are we going to get our donors? When I joined that mission that I spoke about, that I was CEO of, we had a $600,000 mailing budget to return $2.2 million in revenue from donors. $600,000. And when I looked and I did the numbers, I'd spend $600,000 all day long to return $2 million. My board of directors, I really put on an active acquisition program because that development income from that source wasn't improving. And I put on an acquisition program, and for a year, I spent about $70,000 in acquisition. The board had a fit, as they oftentimes would do, and they had a fit about it. They said, you can't spend that money. And we had been doing about $30,000, $40,000 worth of acquisition. They made me cut that acquisition budget immediately. And for the next 2 years, our revenues from that source dropped 22%. No matter how you're doing your acquisition, don't be afraid to spend money to do it. And don't be afraid to look at the professional organizations in fundraising that are able to build acquisition. And don't forget to go to your local source that can do mailing for you if you can partner with a local mailer. And I do with all my nonprofits that I work with in the Allentown, Bethlehem, Eastern Pennsylvania area. I partner with that printer that not only can do the mailing for me, but he also is a provider of the right mailing lists. We just did an acquisition of 2 new zip codes, the 2 highest income zip codes in our region. And we're going to add those to our mailing list. Is it going to cost a lot of money? We're going to get a lot of return from it? Yes and no. But you have to be patient. You have to allow those types of donor development to evolve. If you have any other questions about that, by the way, Delores' information you'll have right on your in front of your screen. I work with Delores on some projects, so if you have any questions about any of these things specifically, I'd be really happy to answer them. And you'll see Delores is going to offer you a freebie at the end of the thing that you can connect with us. Event management. The note I have here about event management is. You have big events, you have small events, you have good events, you have bad events. You have to evaluate every event you hold. Okay, I'm having a community forum. Purpose is develop following, but the purpose is to serve our members. You can have events that don't make a lot of money, but do amazing services for all your donors and for your community. That could be a great event. You have to prioritize, get the mix of them. If you have an organization, as Family Promise did when they started, they had 7 fundraisers, and the total average was $1,300 per fundraising event, and they spent hundreds of hours on this accumulation. Got on board 5 months after opening. We decided to do a gala. Big risk because we had about $18,000 worth of investment. It returned $87,000 because we got the message out to everyone. They showed up. The auctions worked effectively and it worked beautifully. You really have to evaluate, are you managing your events? Are they community events? That's one thing, but are they the events that are really supporting your donors wanting to give? You always have to think when you're talking about your donors, you always have to have that mindset. What are we giving to our donors? It's not always taking. I happen to be one of those people that loves making the calls. I could make donor calls 8 hours a day and make 150 of them a day and love it. I like doing it if I'm passionate about what I'm doing. By the way, with your development people that are doing that work and your leaders, make sure that those folks will love it. You have to hear that from them. Why would you like asking for money? Well, in my case, if I'm passionate about a project, example right now, I'm helping special needs adults in a wonderful new program where we're going to build a new building for them to live when their parents and support die. if you're passionate about it, it's not a tough call, because people say, oh man, I really hear what you like about that. Yeah, I would like to donate. Send me the information. Where can I go? How can I do it? You have to train your people in your leadership and your development group, whoever's doing the outreach, train them that a no gets you to your next yes. You can't sit there and get depressed. Oh, Mary said no. You call Hank next and he gives you $700 or $2,000 or $5,000. Always make sure your events tie in with those, make sure events always tie in with sponsorships. We all know that. Sponsorships are the key to make the calls. I don't care whether it's a $200 sponsorship or $10,000 sponsorship. It gives me a reason to call that level donor 4, 6, or 8 times a year, depending on how your events are scheduled. Marketing and outreach is kind of self-explanatory. If you're not going to do the marketing and the outreach, if you're not going to do, but the development people and the CEO aren't doing 4 speeches a week to the organizations in your region to get your message out, particularly if you're in a needs type of a charity, it doesn't work. And just a quick example there, I did a talk to, and I happened to be at the time as a Christian charity, and I did a minute for mission in a church. So I did about 50 of them, but in this one specific church, it was right at the beginning. And I had one of our homeless moms with me that day, but she was there and she said a few words, but I talked to them about this homeless shelter for moms and kids. And within a week, one of the participants in that church didn't know them from Adam. They didn't know me from Adam or the organization, sent us a $10,000 check. And they were, in the first year and a half, a $50,000 donor. Marketing and outreach talks to Rotaries, talks to church groups. Would you talk to 6 in the women's auxiliary at the nursing home? Absolutely, positively. Yeah, and you have to build, if you don't have the staff, you have to build the volunteer staff to make that happen. Last but not least, the only thing I can say about grants, you have to do them. Most people hate them. You have to do the grants. You make sure you copy and paste, make sure you get your best writers to build what goes in the product of that grant so you can copy and paste. Make sure your valuable people that should be out with the donors and developing big donors, make sure they're not writing the grants, but you have to proof everything they do. Give an example of why grant management is so important. Before I left Family Promise, for about 8 months, I was tracking a grant of $55,000 of a church closing and had to get Attorney General approval. That $55,000 was sitting waiting. Every 6 weeks, I would check with that representative from the church organization. Have you heard from the Attorney General yet? Have they approved us as a liquidation of your assets to get part of it? And I continued to follow up until about 14 months later, the check came in for $97,000, not $54,000 that we were requesting. And I called her right away. I said, Jean, what in the world happened? She said, Jim, you got yours doubled because you're the one person that cared enough to follow up with us regularly, just to find out if there's anything else we needed to follow up to make sure that it was still progressing. Follow up. The key to the day of grants, follow up with your grantors, making sure they know that you're alive. Share with them a story about a good event you just had, or whatever that might be. There's a capsulization and I'm talking about a brainstorming to get you thinking about 6 of the really, really vital parts of this thing called development. I mean, every part of it has 100 strategies and all of the above, but that gives you a pretty good idea of what we're talking about here. I'm going to ask for the next slide, please. I'm really happy to reintroduce Philip. Philip's going to give us a couple non-traditional ideas besides grants and donations and of course other parts of fundraising. But it's all yours, Philip. Thank you for helping me out here, partner. Philip, your mute's on.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was out of the room. Yeah, you asking me a question? What's the question?
No,
No, that was for Philip. We got it.
Oh, Philip. Oh, okay, good.
no problem. Thank you. Now my mute is off. Thank you. So grants, dinners, donations, these are, the typical ways of raising money, and of course, they're all valid. I wanted to present at least these two and possibly three alternative ways that most people don't know about or don't think of. The main one, which is not listed, is Google Ad Grants, and many people know about those already. The Google company will give to a registered nonprofit $10,000 a month in advertising on Google AdWords, basically. We have done this numerous times using Google's people, and it has not worked well at all. There is a woman that I can refer you to. I'm not allowed to make a recommendation per se. It's for everyone to check her out individually. There are companies out there that will manage the Google Ad Grants program for you and that are certified by Google. I've used the Google people themselves. They are primarily based in India. They don't do very well, and that did not work, but there's another woman that I can refer you to if you would like. My contact information is there. Just please ask me at the end or email me at the end. These kinds of companies, there are a lot of them. They do manage the Google Ad Grants, and they are trained in getting the results for people. The main one I wanted to talk to you about, and I'll do number two and then number one. Number two is called premium financed insurance. Most people have absolutely no idea this exists. It's been around for at least 20 years. It's totally legal. And again, very few people will know about it. But it's a way for donors to preserve their legacy and pass on to a charity so that their name and their family can perpetuate in that way. It is an insurance policy that is, again, primarily a life insurance policy for high net worth individuals. They have high net worth and they own a lot of collateral. The normal minimum is around $5 million, but that can be adjusted accordingly. The policies are tailored to individuals. Now, many established nonprofits have a handful or many high net worth donors, high net worth individuals. Sometimes you don't know if they are. For example, I knew that someone was involved in real estate and commercial real estate. That person is likely to be a high net worth individual. So you don't know until you ask, and it doesn't hurt to ask. The policy is unique because first of all, it has two benefits for the nonprofit, which I will get to in a moment, but it's unique in that the premium is 100% paid by the banks or insurance companies, and the insured person pays nothing. And this does not affect the cash flow from the collateral pledged or the collateral assigned. I won't get into how that works. You can ask the insurance agent that I can connect you to. But again, the policies are tailored to the individuals, and the individual pays nothing, which is pretty remarkable. The ways that this benefits nonprofits is twofold. During the policy's first 4 years, the insured can direct that a minimum of $5,000 a year be paid to a specific charity or nonprofit. So in that way, the nonprofit can benefit immediately. And then also the death benefit, it's a life insurance policy. So when the insured person dies, the policy can direct that a portion of the benefit, the portion of the proceeds, be given to a charity or nonprofit, so in addition to the family. So this is typical, but it's unusual.
Part of the group that attended. So once again,
sorry, Ryan, did you say something?
That was an accident, sorry.
Okay, so let me just continue, and then we'll have comments and questions at the end. So again, the charity can benefit in two ways. One is that during the person's lifetime, the charity can get a $5,000 minimum annually for at least 4 years. And the second, of course, is that when the person dies, then the charity can also benefit as a legacy donation. And the other way that this is very unusual is that it's tax-free and the insured person pays nothing. So that's pretty remarkable. The other one, number one, is it's a company called Creative Charity Auctions. There are probably others like this. Again, I can't recommend them or endorse them, but I know that we have used them. They're very reputable, and it's for each person to determine him or herself whether to pursue this. This is a particular company that basically organizes auctions either in person, such as at dinners, or online, as you know, as typical now. They have hundreds, if not thousands, of items that they can auction off. The company itself determines what the items are. Many of them are typical. They involve sports, music, art, handbags, collectibles, political memorabilia, such as something for the Reagans, for people who are Republicans, something for the Kennedys if they're Democrats, animation, and especially travel trips. And people now after COVID are absolutely aching to travel. Travel is booming internationally and domestically. The international trips include trips to Africa, to Tuscany, to Greece, to Barcelona, to Ireland, and to London. And then there are domestic and international wine tours. So the way this works is that whenever the item, as you know from auctions, an item has a minimum bid. You, the charity who are working with this company, decide mutually what the bids are. Now, again, this is a company that's been in the business, does it daily. I would personally follow their lead, but you can direct them however you would like. So they set the minimum bid. Let's say it's $200. You, the charity, would get 25% of the minimum bids, which is $50. You would also get 100% of what is called the overbid. So the starting bid is 200. If people bid $500 for the item, the difference is from 500 to 200 is $300. And you, the organization, you, the charity, gets 100% of that. So you get the $300 overbid plus 50% plus 25% of the opening bid, that's 50. So for that item, you would get automatically $350. This company, Creative Charity Auctions, organizes the entire auction itself, organizes all of the gifts, organizes the shipping and so forth. And basically, they do ask that you have a large mailing list. They will ask you to do the mailings, but they will suggest mailings to your list. They will develop the promotions themselves and ask for you to mail to your list of supporters and so forth. Again, if it's online, if it's at a dinner or something or an event, then of course the people are there. So they will design the promotions for you. The company also has a store, an online store. The prices are not listed on the online store, but the buyer can ask the company, what is the price of this item? And if they say that if the buyers say that they are coming through your charity, then your charity gets a percentage of that online sale. So that's the third way that you can benefit. So these are two, again, non-traditional ways that nonprofits can earn money that most people don't know of. And if you have any questions about either program or are interested in learning more about either program, wish to be connected with the insurance agents for the premium financed insurance or for the people who run the Creative Charity Auctions, please contact me either by email or phone as shown on the slide, and I will be delighted to connect you. Same thing with the Google ad grants as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Philip. I want you, I'm going to ask you to just back up 2 slides, please. Go back 2, thank you. But particularly that premium financing, he happens to be a board member, but I'm working with the special needs charities I mentioned, and we are putting in place for our new major capital campaign to build a building for these folks when their parents die. We're putting on a major campaign, and Mass Mutual is one of the providers I know, Philip, that does a big job with that specialty. Those are really great ideas. Thank you for that. I slipped up a little bit, and I have another 2 minutes that my friend Delores wants to jump back in. She wants to talk a little bit about data management again, and I apologize, Delores. Please go back, and then we'll wrap this up, and we'll have 15 minutes for questions. Go ahead.
Thank you. I really appreciate the insight that both Jim and Philip shared. I think it was very valuable, and I will want to make this brief, but I think it's very important to share and reiterate, to make your fundraising strategy effective, your development plan more sustainable. Of course, I know that Jim mentioned, sales and increasing conversions and deepening your relationships with people in your network, increasing the gift sizes. How do you do that without increasing your to-do list? And I want to just reiterate the importance of investing in the right technology tools. Of course, having the best development director is great with all the knowledge and insight that they bring, but everybody doesn't know it all. And technology is one of those, I think things that people, oh no, it's too hard, it's too difficult. But if you don't have it implemented, you will be challenged with taking up a lot of time and resources to gather the information that you really need to make better decisions on developing strategies that are going to help you achieve the goals that you set out in your plan. So just really quick, if one of your development strategies is, oh gosh, we need to really focus on fundraising. So you need to consider fundraising software that will really help you create more organized process. It'll help you plan and run and market your fundraiser. It'll help create those reports. You can really compare, them against it. You compare your campaigns against each other, see where you're succeeding, see where you need to maybe adapt your strategies. If it's matching gifts, look at the software that will help you, because donors don't always know if their company matches or doesn't match. How do they get access to that information or that paperwork? You need the tool to kind of help them along, and that may double your donations. I think Jen mentioned something about event management. So if it's virtual event software, you might need to consider that as part of your big fundraising strategy. You really want to make a worthy investment in software that provides you the feature that you need to integrate everything and into one place that not only you can access, but your team can access it, and they can watch the progress and add their insights at any time if necessary as well. So I wanted to make sure that I touched on that before we
Thank you. Thanks so much, Lois. That insight is so vital. There is so much help out there, and so many times we try to do certain things ourselves, and then we kind of blunder through them, and that doesn't work. Would you move ahead 2 slides, please, Miss Lauren? Thank you. Pulling all together, the conclusion, coordinating your organization's strategic plan with a clear and complete development plan. We've talked all noontime, lunchtime about that. Please remember to take a look at both and make sure they're working and make sure they're active. Every strategic initiative for development must follow goal setting and be communicated to all stakeholders. In the work Delores and I do, I don't think communication, I believe communication is by far the thing we talk about to our leaders all the time, about to every one of our stakeholders. If you're not communicating properly, if you're not keeping folks aware of where the goal setting and the goals are, it just doesn't work. You got to get everybody, get the buy-in. The communication is how you really create the team that wants to achieve and support all these grandiose ideas you have. And flexibility and change management, besides communication to Delores and I, and what we do, are 2 of the most important things in management and leadership. And those 2 values have to be administered. They just don't happen. Oh, I don't like change management, so I'm not going to lead it. Hello, whether you like it or not, it's got to be led. It's got to be developed. It's got to be put in place. And when you start changing things in your fundraising and development, well, we've always had the dinner for those 220 people, and we've always raised $1,100. Well, it's time to change that and invite different people. People will not like that at all. I'm going to ask if we could go to the next slide, please. I'm going to, before we kind of wrap up, we'll put this, well, we can even go back to the other slide, but now it's question and answer time. We're not saying we're going to have all the answers, but we guarantee you we'll get you any answers that we can't answer. But Philip, Delores, and I would be very happy to, for the next 12, 13 minutes before we wrap up. Answer any questions you might have. Please go ahead and unmute and ask them.
Yes, good morning or good afternoon again. This is Max. I just had a quick question about the Google Ads grants. Does Google give credits of $10,000 a month, or do they actually send you $10,000 a month? And then you pay from that.
credits.
These are credits, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to sign up for their program, and then you're allowed $10,000 worth of
Right.
keywords, basically.
Yeah. So I've already spoken to somebody about that. And I don't know if it's your contact or who it is. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but someone had reached out to me about Google Ads grants, and we had a meeting. I think it's really great. We had to get some things done to our website first with the
Yeah.
501c3 info up on the website. Now we can move forward. But unfortunately, I have a meeting with the Belgian Consul General, and I got to get dressed and brush my teeth and then head out. So I've got to jump off here. Great meeting you guys. Good presentation. Excellent insights to keep in mind. It's a little early for us and a lot of these things, but when we have a staff in place, because we're a volunteer working board, and the
Yep.
board does not have all the resources and capacity to do a lot of this work. When we hire full-time staff, will be a different story, and then we can revisit this to see how we can.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to keep this available for you, just so you can use it as a checkpoint for when your board starts thinking about some of those. Thanks, Max, for being with us.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, Max.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Anyone else?
Anybody on the phones, we can hear you clearly. If you want to jump in here, don't hesitate. And Paleo, is there anything we can help you with today?
You talking to me?
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm just listening. We're a pretty built out board. We're $100 million revenue. We've got two boards, governing and fundraising. I'm on the fundraising side, so I'm always listening. We just spent the weekend with Kay Sprinkle Grace, if you know who she is. So we're headed in that direction. It's never fast enough for me. So I'm a social justice warrior. I want things to happen faster, and the bureaucracy is what it is. So yeah, anyway.
What is the organization, Paleo?
It's PALO, by the way.
I'm sorry,
PALO.
Paleo.
And it's called the Center for Elders Independence, and it's located in Oakland, California. And the mission
Gotcha.
is to keep seniors in their homes with better outcomes. So we take care of their complete medical needs, pharmacy, all that kind of stuff. So we're interested in their quality of care and making sure that they stay as healthy as possible, because we take their Medicare and Medi-Cal uncapped. I mean, excuse me, it's capped, but we take care of their medical uncapped. So it's a PACE program for all-inclusive care for the elderly. It's nationwide. There's a whole bunch of PACE programs, and so it's specifically for seniors. So that's the board that I sit on specifically. And I, over the last 24 months, have helped raise $63.2 million for a couple of different nonprofits. So I'm a prolific fundraiser. I'm California Fundraiser of the Year award winner. So I was just trying to listen for different kinds of things. A lot of things you're saying are true. We work with one nationwide one, which remain nameless. Their board said you have to cut your printing budget, and exactly, and they just did it a few months ago. And so we shall see what happens as a result of that.
Gotcha.
So anyway.
Mhm.
Hey, Paleo, I'm going to be a little bit bold here and say, with talking about AGIF, I'm trying to help Philip in any way I can. Boy, if you have any ideas for us, or you want to sit down with us and talk about some methods that you and your organization have been so successful, and I love that fundraiser of the year. That is a really cool title. I'm very proud to know you. You're
Thank
a man
you.
that I emulate in this industry, because, as we all know, fundraising is the tough part. No matter what people say, we can deliver the goods, but boy, if we can't do the fundraising, we're not successful. Thank you for your time here today.
Sure. If you want to reach out to me, Philip knows me. Philip and I've known each other for what, 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I want to have I would love to have a little brainstorming session with you, me and Philip. That'd be wonderful.
or
Thank
the
you.
two of us, or Dr. What is it? Dr.
Springs.
Springs. So, yeah.
Dr.
Give me,
No,
reach out.
absolutely will. I'm bringing her along. Trust me, she'll be there with us. That's great. Thank
Sure,
you.
I'm in San Francisco, 32 miles due east of San Francisco. I don't know where all of you are, but we can jump on a Zoom call or something, or phone call.
Yeah,
We're all in
yeah,
the
we're
East.
some of us are in Pennsylvania, New Jersey,
That's what I
Philadelphia.
thought, yeah.
That's-
I'm
that's-
actually from the Bay Area, so I'm familiar with that organization,
Okay.
which is just kind of took me back. I'm like, oh, that's you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did a lot of work in Alameda County. And so with a lot of nonprofits and a lot, as you know, the aging population is in high demand of those services. So I'd love to get more insight, because I work with some nonprofits out here who are involved in elder care, and they're, in need of some, maybe some more insight. So it'll
Well,
be
it's a-
good to connect.
It's a big deal. I mean, what, 10,000 people a day turn 75. So that's a
Yep.
big deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Well,
And
well,
there's a lot more funding available for that, those needs,
Yeah.
or that target population as
I
well.
think,
So
I think a lot of it depends on what state you live in. I
Yeah.
don't want to get into politics particularly,
That's
which
true.
I'm totally happy to get into, but this isn't that.
unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that in this particular form,
yeah,
Halo, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
That's why I said it the way I did. I mean,
Yeah.
depends on what state you're in, more resources for some states than others. So,
Mhm.
Great.
thank you.
All right.
As we come to the conclusion, is there any other thoughts? The biggest question I had, 4 or 5 of my nonprofits asked me questions before this. They could not attend. Now they're going to attend please share with your friends that they can attend the tape version, the recorded version of this off our website. But one big question, my board wants to focus on programs all the time. And they always put fundraising as a kind of second thing. This is a major question from 2 people. I said to both executive directors, you need to talk to your chairman. You need to be honest with him or her. You need to tell them you need to change your board of directors that will be open to the whole picture. Because if they stay focused on programs, I guarantee you'll be closed in 2 years. I know Palo will agree with me that 100%.
Well, that's
You will not
exactly why that's why we have the 2 boards. Because, so this is the Center for Elders Independence is a medical delivery system. And most people don't know this, but if you're on a medical delivery nonprofit or anything like that, the board is fiduciarily liable for quality of services and what services should be delivered. Well, I'm a business person. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I don't know anything about medical and all that kind of stuff. So I said I'd be happy to fundraise, but not be on your governing board. I don't care about all that stuff, and I don't want the liability. So they created the fundraising board specifically, and now there's 13 of us. That's all we do. That we don't get involved with the other. It's a separate foundation.
Well, Pedro, that's wonderful. You gave me a really great answer to go back with.
Yep.
And my thing always was, even in a small nonprofit, you can have your 7, 9, 12, 15 board members that govern, but you can have a community board of folks that just want to serve. They want to chair committees. They want to do the fundraising. And boy, that's great. Thank you for that information, Pedro. By the way, you're on the next you're on the dais for the next fall's programming. Delores, there's somebody that can help us lead one of them. He's good.
Yeah,
As we wrap up, I'm going to put this back into Philip and Dolores's hands, but all those attending, all those listening in, and all those that will hear the recording, we can't thank you enough for being with us today. And as a representative of AGIF and Philip's amazing organization, I ask for your support. Get on board with us, pitch in, see what you can do with us. We'd love to have your help. Thanks a million. Next slide, please. We'll go to Delores first.
I just want to thank everybody for attending and listening in, and want to invite you to part 3 of this series. It'll be July 20th. We'll be talking about how to leverage process initiatives to optimize your program outcomes. Please register and share this within your network. I'd love to hear your insights as well. So thank you. Next slide.
Next slide, please.
I just want to also share the information about Springs of Hope Consulting. Please look us up on LinkedIn or visit our website. If you have more questions about anything presented, Jim shared some amazing insights, and he's definitely an expert in this field. Please feel free to reach out to me or reach out to him, and we'd be happy to have an individual consultation with you. Next
And
slide.
Mr. Auerbach,
Yes.
if you'd wrap us up, please. And again, thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much. You see here our phone number and our email address. Our website is theagif.org. And very simple. Simply, this presentation and others are listed under our network programs and then community forums title. So the recording will be uploaded within the next few days and obviously available at no charge to anyone else who would like to listen to it. So to support us, to support the mission of educating nonprofits and to benefit nonprofits worldwide, please join us in some way through future forums, through donations, however you feel comfortable. Joining us as a volunteer, as a board member, as an advisor, whatever. We'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to contact me. My email is philip1l@theagif.org, or the phone number you see there, and just ring through. No question, no schedule necessary. No appointment schedules necessary. If I can't talk to you, leave a message and I'll call you back when I can. Okay, thank you so much to everyone. Again, delighted that you can attend, delighted that you joined us. And thank you, of course, to our wonderful presenters, Delores Springs and Jim Byrnes, for the superb information, and to our wonderful coordinator, Lauren Heaton, who's behind the scenes and made everything work for us. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Take care.
Take care.